Top 5 power dialers for B2B cold calling teams. Why most B2B teams plateau with manual dialing. If your SDRs are still manually dialing, you're forcing them to spend their day on the least valuable part of cold calling, repetitive admin. Cold calling isn't dead, it's math. When Cognism reports a 4.82% average cold call success rate, meetings booked from conversations, every additional live conversation you create has a direct, measurable impact on pipeline. The bottleneck for most teams isn't willingness or effort, it's throughput. Manual dialing commonly caps reps at 10 to 15 calls per hour because they're constantly context switching, looking up numbers, clicking around the CRM, wading through rings, and logging notes. A well-configured power dialer pushes that to 50 to 60 plus calls per hour, turning the same SDR hours into far more at-bats. For leaders running a cold calling team, this is why activity alone is a misleading KPI. A dialer can create more dials, but the goal is more conversations and more meetings. The best B2B sales agency leaders treat dialing speed as a means to an end, then measure what actually matters: connect rate, meetings per conversation, and pipeline created. What a power dialer actually changes and what it doesn't. A power dialer doesn't replace skill, it removes friction. It automatically progresses through your list, drops pre-recorded voicemails, and syncs dispositions and notes back to Salesforce or HubSpot so reps stay in conversation mode instead of admin mode. Revenue.io reports teams can drive 3 to 4 times more call volume and improve connect rates by up to 32% compared to manual dialing, which is exactly why dialers are now table stakes for serious B2B outbound. Third-party research echoed by CallCloud, citing Velocify, found reps can complete 92% more calls per hour using automated dialing versus manual calling. That's not a small efficiency gain. It's the difference between a rep doing some calling and a rep running a consistent outbound motion that can actually be optimized and coached. What a dialer doesn't fix is bad targeting, weak lists, or a mediocre talk track. If you feed a power dialer poor data, you'll just burn through bad numbers faster and damage caller ID reputation faster. The highest performing cold calling companies treat list quality and messaging as the first priorities, then use the dialer to scale what already works. How to choose a power dialer for B2B: speed, quality, and workflow. For high-value B2B sales, the right default is usually power dial mode, one call at a time with automated progression, or preview dialing for strategic accounts. Many teams make the mistake of choosing parallel or predictive dialing to chase raw volume, then wonder why prospects complain about awkward delays, dropped calls, or a spammy experience. If you're calling directors and executives, call quality is part of your brand. Integration matters as much as dialing speed. Your dialer should live inside your CRM and sales engagement platform so calls flow directly from sequences and every note, disposition, and recording syncs automatically. When reps have to double log activity, your productivity tool becomes another tab, and productivity drops right back to baseline. Use a simple scorecard before you demo anything: calls per hour, connect rate, meetings per conversation, and average talk time. Start by capturing a manual baseline, then evaluate dialers against that baseline in a pilot. If you're not seeing at least a 2 times lift in the metrics you care about, the issue is usually configuration, data quality, or caller ID hygiene. Not that dialers don't work. A rollout plan that prevents chaos: pilot first, then scale. The fastest way to fail with a power dialer is turning it on for 20 reps at once. Instead, stand up a 2 to 3 rep pilot pod for 30 to 60 days, keep the ICP tight, and give them clean data. Track their calls per hour, connect rate, and meetings booked against a control group still dialing manually. Local presence and spam mitigation should be configured on day one, not later. Revenue.io has shared that local presence can lift connection rates by up to 400%, and Kixi positions its Connection Boost feature as driving 40 to 500% higher live connection rates through number rotation and spam detection. Those gains don't happen automatically. You need number pools, monitoring, and guardrails, like max attempts per contact per week, to protect caller ID reputation. Finally, update the talk track and the cadence before you scale. A dialer makes it easier to do more of whatever you're already doing. If your opener is weak, you'll just create more quick hangups per hour. Treat the pilot as a messaging lab. A/B test openers, tighten objection handling, and align calling with email and LinkedIn outreach services so prospects experience a coherent sequence, not random touches. A power dialer shouldn't be judged by how many dials it creates, but by how many real conversations it unlocks, and how reliably it turns those conversations into meetings. Top 5 power dialers B2B teams actually use and when to pick each. There isn't one best tool. There's the best fit for your stack and outbound motion. If you need a standalone dialer that's easy to roll out quickly, PhoneBurner is a common choice, and it advertises up to 80 contacts per hour when configured with voicemail drop and post-call automation. PhoneBurner also highlights a Unishipper's case study where daily calling jumped from about 50 to 200 plus calls per day, a 4x lift in activity. If you live inside Salesforce or want a dialer tightly connected to revenue intelligence and coaching workflows, Revenue.io is frequently shortlisted because it focuses on end-to-end calling performance, including local presence. If connect rates are your bottleneck, tools that treat caller ID reputation like a first-class feature, such as Kixi Power Call with number rotation and spam detection, can be compelling, especially for teams that want local presence and CRM context without rebuilding their entire workflow. For teams running heavy sales engagement cadences, many leaders prefer dialing where the cadence lives, often inside SalesLoft or Outreach, so call steps, dispositions, and follow-ups stay unified. And if your team is experimenting with higher volume parallel approaches, Orem is often evaluated for speed. Just be intentional, because parallel dialing can be the wrong experience for high-value B2B if it introduces delays or abandoned calls. Common mistakes that kill ROI and how to avoid them. The most expensive mistake is choosing the wrong dialing mode for your audience. Predictive or multi-line approaches can increase raw dialing volume, but they also raise the risk of awkward connection delays, dropped calls, and a telemarketing feel, especially in B2B cold calling where credibility matters. For most SDR teams, power dial mode is the safer default, and preview dialing is better for named accounts. The next mistake is measuring success purely on dials per day. If you reward only activity, reps will spray and pray, torch your best lists, and still miss pipeline targets. Instead, tie incentives to conversations, meetings booked, and opportunity quality. Then use dials per hour as a diagnostic metric to understand whether the system is removing friction. The third bucket is operational hygiene, ignoring data health, skipping caller ID setup, and turning on a dialer without updating scripts. A dialer magnifies inputs. Bad numbers and weak targeting become faster waste, while clean direct dials and a strong opener compound into consistent meetings. Treat compliance and call patterns seriously, maintain suppression, DNC processes, and build a weekly call review rhythm so coaching keeps pace with volume. Optimization levers, connect rates, coaching, and conversation quality. Once you've increased throughput, connect rate becomes the biggest lever. Use local presence strategically, rotate numbers to protect reputation, and monitor per-number performance so spam likely flags don't quietly ruin your results. When connect rates move, your meetings move, because you're feeding the top of the funnel with more real conversations, not just more rings. Coaching should come from recordings, not just dashboards. When you're making hundreds of calls, even small talk track improvements compound fast. Moving from a 3% to a 5% meeting rate on conversations is a huge lift at dialer scale. Use Live Listen Whisper where appropriate. Tag winning openers, and standardize what good sounds like across the team. Finally, keep the dialer embedded in your workflow. Deep CRM and SEP integration is what turns dialing into a repeatable system. Accurate dispositions, consistent follow-ups, and clean analytics. The dialer is the engine, but the real performance comes from the full outbound machine. Data, messaging, multi-touch cadences, and feedback loops. Next steps: build it in-house or outsource for faster time to pipeline. If you're building in-house, start with realistic targets. Many B2B teams can reach 150 to 250 dials per day with a power dialer without sacrificing call quality, but only if you have clean data, clear ICP, and a cadence that blends calling with email and LinkedIn. The dialer's job is to remove idle time. Your job is to ensure the conversations are worth having. If you don't have the bandwidth to manage list-building services, dialer configuration, caller ID hygiene, script iteration, and rep coaching at dialer speed, sales outsourcing can be the more predictable path. Many teams work with a specialized cold calling agency to get the infrastructure, training, and management needed to produce consistent meetings. Then bring pieces in-house later once the playbook is proven. At SalesHive, we've been running dialer-enabled outbound since 2016, combining disciplined calling with email and LinkedIn outreach in one coordinated motion. As an outbound sales agency and SDR agency, we focus on the parts most teams struggle with: clean targeting, repeatable scripts, coaching loops, and operational rigor, so you get dialer-level scale without having to build every system yourself.